Hello guys. Okay, so I think this lab class is only 18 students, right? So we can start now. So first of all, I would like to introduce you about the hands-on lab. Sorry, the hands-on lab. First lab that you need to set the environment, and as Hai is the TA for this course, she already posted a guideline for you to set up the environment, and I think you already set up, right? For the IDE, as I already said in the first lecture, you can use another IDE, but recommend is the Eclipse because all the hands-on lab will guide you with Eclipse. So if you use other IDE, you need to do by yourself. And I'm not sure if you can follow all the hands-on lab. So my recommendation is Eclipse, okay? Okay, so I assume that most of students already set up. So you will compile and run Java program by command line with two statements, Java C, that is Java compile, and Java, that is for running. Running is like it will let the JVM to interpret from the bytecode to the machine code, and then run the machine code line by line, statement by statement. Okay, so two commands that you can do with the command line to compile and run Java programs without using an IDE. And also you will need to compile and run Java program using IDE, that is Eclipse, build and run, and some information, some components, some components of Eclipse. I think I will introduce later. And some exercise with Java basics. And two more thing is to turn in the exercise to GitHub. That's very important. Okay. So what about GitHub? Did you see my video about version control and try to create a repository for the labs? GitHub. Okay, so I think firstly I will introduce Hai. We'll make a demo for this part, compile and run Java programs by command line using this command. And you may need to set the Java home to do that. Depends on the operating system. So I will provide Hai, the presenter.
So now I'm gonna do a demo for the compilation of a Java program using the command line. So here I've written the source code. So here I've prepared the source code as the example in the lab class. So to compile this program, you navigate to the folder of the file, and then you open the terminal. You can check that Java is installed on the machine by using the command Java and then use the version flag. And then here on my machine, I've installed Java version 8, as you can see. Is everyone still following?
Yeah.
So now to compile the program first, we will use the javac command and then the file name hello world. And then the code is compiled and a class file is produced in the same directory. And then to run the program, you use the Java command hello world. And then you can see the output on the command line.
Do you modify some code so that maybe?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Can you edit the source code in say this an error, a syntax of error, for example, and then you compile again to see what happened?
So, for example, instead of calling, I've intentionally used the wrong system reference with a lowercase s, and then save the file. And then it should produce an error when we try to compile the file. So here, the compiler shows us the position of the error.
Another example with the very simple UI with the dialog box.
Yes.
So I will answer the question about Zhang. What if I run the program without compile? I mean, without type JavaC, okay? If you don't compile the program, so you only have the source code .java file, right? And you don't have the bytecode.class. So when you run the program, hi, could you demo? Just do that. You delete the class file and
yes,
try to run.
So we can see in the previous directory that we've compiled the source code here. If we delete the bytecode file and then try to run the program again, then it cannot produce the output because it cannot find the bytecode file for the Java virtual machine. And for so if you want the program to run, you have to make sure that a bytecode file is produced by compiling again. So no error, which means the compilation is successful, and then you can see a .class file is produced, and then you can run the program. So for the GUI example, so in this photo, I've also prepared a source code of the GUI application. And it needs to include the library, so we'll try to compile this file program2. And then
the error is because you
yes.
naming the file. So in Java, you need to naming the file name should be exactly the same the class name. So the class name is choosing option, but the file name is program2. So Not
So
allowed.
produce.
No, it's not problem proof. So it's okay. It's successfully compiled.
And then a Java application is started.
So I will introduce you more about the Eclipse. Okay, so can you see my slide?
Yes, we can see.
So okay, so I already make a demo for you to compile and run with the command line. And now I will have a summary for you about Eclipse. In Eclipse, there are some important elements that you need to know. The project that I already created one for you, workspace, view, and perspectives. So project is something like collection of related resources that you will need to do a requirement or to realize a requirement. Okay, and Xbox project may have a executable or maybe multiple executable product. Workspace is a directory on the disk containing the preference, configuration, and temporary information of Eclipse and plugins. So when you choose a workspace that is a space of work that you do, you may organize a set of projects and you can work on a related project together. So in a workspace, you may have several projects that you are currently working on, okay? And all the configuration, preference, or temporary information will be stored in the workspace folder. So that the subsequent Eclipse invocation, when you open again the Eclipse, it will get all the configuration, preference, and other things for the setup projects will be used to restore the previous state of your workspace. And the workspace may store the project resource or not. It's not obligation. When you create a project in workspace, you can choose to store the project in a specific folder or in the workspace. It's up to you. Okay. So the workspace is mainly for storing the preference, configuration, and temporary information of Eclipse and plugin for some project that you are currently working on. Okay. It may store the project result or not. Views and perspective. Views is a graphical representation of project metadata so that you can use the views to see some aspect of the project, like project navigator. You can see all the resources of the project or problem that is the error may raising when you compile the program, or the outline of the class, etc. And perspective is the initial collection and arrangement of view and an editor area. Default is Java, and you can have some other perspective. So to illustrate more visually, I will let you to look at a video that is something like very detailed of Eclipse IDE, include both workspace, project, view, and perspective, as I say. Okay, but it's more, more practice with the Eclipse IDE. Okay.
When you start Eclipse the very first time, you'll be prompted to set up a workspace. And a workspace is a place where all of your projects will be stored. You should basically pick one workspace on your computer, and that is your workspace all the time. Each project within that workspace folder then gets its own folder. So it's not a bad idea to first pick a place for your workspace that's easy to find. I'm choosing my desktop, but you might prefer your documents folder or something similar. And you could check this box that says use this as a default and do not ask again. If you check this box, then you won't see this prompt again next time you start Eclipse. I will check it. Once you set up the workspace, you'll see that Eclipse creates a folder for you, and that is the folder where all of your projects will then be put. So this is now my workspace folder. When you start Eclipse, the first view you will see is this welcome screen, and you can actually shut off this welcome screen if you want. If you shut it off, then you'll end up in the workbench every time. The workbench is where you're going to do all your work. But if you're interested in tutorials or sample files, you may want to take a look at these. They can give you a better idea of the things that Eclipse can do. This is your workbench area, and once you've got the workbench area, notice that you can specify a different workspace if you need to. So if you've been using the same workspace but for whatever reason need to use a different workspace, you can designate one here, either one that you've used recently or a brand new one. Typically you shouldn't need to do this, but if you do want to set up another workspace, you can do that. Every new project that you do requires its own project folder. If you've used Dr. Java before, you're used to simply writing a source code file, saving it, compiling it, and running it. But in Eclipse, everything is set up in project folders. So you can't just simply start writing a file. You need to create a new project folder for each assignment you're going to do, whether it's a lab or homework assignment. Think of each lab or homework assignment as being its own project, and it needs its own project folder. So we'll always begin a new lab or assignment by going to File, New, Java Project. And our default values are fine for this, so you can, for now, ignore these. There may be times later where you'll care about these options, but the default options should work fine. You might want to notice that the project layout uses a separate folder for source and class files, which I'll show you in a second. So now that the project is set up, let's take a look in our workspace folder. And we can see here is the Hello World folder. Inside the Hello World folder is a separate folder for the source code and for the class files. Since we haven't actually created any files yet for the project, we don't have anything in either of those folders, but that will change once we create our first file in the project. One of the important features of Eclipse is that it uses something called a perspective to set up the screen. Currently we're using the Java perspective, but we can change to other perspectives. For example, if we were debugging a Java project, then we could open the debug perspective. And when we open the debug perspective, it uses a different set of windows. When I'm ready to go back to the Java programming perspective, I can come over here and select Java perspective. Now, as you're working in this perspective, sometimes it's useful to move these various tabbed windows around, and there's different ways you can do that. For example, if there's a window that you would like to be bigger, you can move it, click and drag it so that it's outside the window, resize it the way you want it, put it somewhere where you can see the output easier. If there's a window that you don't want to have there, you can click that to delete it. You can move windows to different parts of the screen. Anything that you want. Basically, you can add and remove windows as needed. Now what may happen as you get going is that you've lost a window that you really wanted to have back on the screen. You can look under Window, and under Show View you can find the various windows that you can add. Problems is the one that's already opened over here. And if I would like to have say a search window, there it is. I now have a search window down here. But probably the easiest thing to do to get back to your starting view is to reset the Java perspective. That's going to be a good friend for you anytime the environment isn't looking the way you would like it to look. So I come over here to the Java perspective and right-click, and I can reset this perspective, and this will put all the tabbed windows back where they're supposed to be by default. So if you find yourself lost, your environment isn't looking the way you want, come to Java and then right-click and reset the perspective. Every Eclipse project begins with a project folder, which we've already created, called Hello World. I can find that Hello World folder in my workspace. Notice there's Hello World, and Eclipse has automatically put in a source code folder, nothing in it yet, and a bin folder, nothing in it yet. The source code folder is where my .java files automatically end up, and when those are compiled to class files, .class files, they end up in here. So I have a project folder set up, but no source code written yet. I need to create my first source code file. So I'll go to File, New, Class, and decide on the name for the class, starting with an uppercase letter, of course. Let's call this Hello World. If you would like a main method automatically generated, then check this box. Often you will not want to check this box, but for this, that's what I want. It's a good idea to put some opening comments in anything, so this is my first Eclipse project, one that says hello. A tag for the author name is automatically generated. If you're going to maintain various versions of this, you could put an @version tag. And then notice that a set of comments was automatically generated for my method. Don't just leave those blank, either delete them or put your own comments in there. I will add a comment that says the method that actually does the saying of hello. And the javadoc comment for the parameter in the method was automatically generated. Let's take advantage of that and just put a brief description. Since this is a parameter I will generally leave alone, I'm just going to put a comment in there that says don't worry about this parameter. Don't leave this comment here. Delete it. And now we're ready to say hello to the world. Notice as I type, each time I type a dot, Eclipse gives me a list of things to choose from, system dot, and there's out. I could double click on it to get it to show up. Dot and print line is somewhere in this list as well. I find it's generally easier to just type these things myself, but it's useful when this pops up to look. Sometimes you'll find a method in there that you hadn't realized was available to you. But for our purposes, we'll just say system.out.println hello world. Also notice that and this is not something that Dr. Java would ever do for you, but if you make a mistake that would cause a compiler error in Eclipse, Eclipse will underline it. So without even trying to compile, Eclipse is already finding compiler errors. So if something is underlined in your code, it really represents a compiler error. And I can see right here that I've got this little red squiggly, just like Word would underline spelling errors, Eclipse underlines compiler errors. I can also see on the left-hand side this X indicating some kind of error on the line. So once I put my semicolon in, the underlining goes away, the X goes away, and I get a nice check mark here that looks good. So I'm ready to actually run this. There's a run button up here, and when I click run, it will ask if I want to save my work. So I will click OK. And then the console window pops up down here, and I see Hello World showing up. This looks good. It's nice to at least verify in my workspace that things are where I think they're going to be. Here's my Hello World folder, and in my source folder is helloworld.java. That's the file that I've just been editing. And in my bin folder is the corresponding .class file. By default, that's where Eclipse is putting things. Source code goes in the source folder, and .class files go in the bin folder. Sometimes when we write Java programs, we have source code from somebody else that we need to incorporate into our own project. So if you have a .java file and you want to make that code part of your project, Eclipse makes it very easy. You can hunt down the file that you want to be part of your project and simply drag it into the Eclipse source code folder within the Eclipse environment. So here's an example. I have my Java folder, and in it is a car.java file. So say I'm writing a program and I would like a car object to be part of my code. It would be nice to incorporate this class into my own project. So here's my source code folder in Eclipse, and here's the original file that I got from somewhere. Maybe I downloaded it, maybe somebody sent it to me. All I need to do is drag it and drop it into the source code folder. And I'm going to choose copy versus link, because copy will create a separate copy of the file, leave the original one safe, and it will put that copy in the source code folder. And I can check this a couple different ways. Looking in my source code folder here, I see car.java is now there along with my own file. But I can also see this by looking in the workspace. I see that in Hello World, in the source code folder are car.java and my file.
Okay, so now I think the last thing that I want to show you is about Git and GitHub. So you should use Git. Sorry. You will use Git to turn in the cassette to GitHub. So you need to create an account in GitHub and submit and post the source code and other resources to GitHub. And now it's the turn of Hai. Please make a demo for using Git and GitHub. Thank you.
With Git, the first thing you want to do is to create a repository. So you can do this in two ways. The first way is from the GitHub webpage, and then you clone it to your local machine. And the second way is that you create the repository on your local machine first, and then you push it to your GitHub account. So here I'll demo both ways. So the first way we'll do is using the GitHub web interface first. So let's call, first you go into your GitHub account, and then there's a button to create new repositories, and then you set up the repository info, such as the repository name, demo kit, and then you set the visibility as public or private. So for the lab assignment in this course, everyone should put their repository as private. So it's a requirement. And then you can choose to add a README or git ignore. And then you create a new repository. So now the remote repository is set up. So you can clone this into your local machine. So the first thing you need to do is to navigate to the right directory that you want to clone. So here I prepared a directory called git demo. So we will clone our repository here. So you change to this directory, and then you use the git clone command, and then you use the link to the remote. Copy it here, and then the repository should be cloned here. We can check. Here the repository is successfully cloned to the local machine. And then you can modify this repository and then commit and then push to the remote repo. So here our demo, for example, you can add files to the local repo. Here I'll reuse the file that we've written in the previous example. Just copy it, put it into the repository. And now, first you need to move into the folder of the repository. Sorry. And then you can check the status using git status. So here it shows 1 untracked files. So the first thing you want to do before pushing your changes to the remote repo is that you need to commit the files using the git commit command. Usually you accompany a commit with a meaningful message. This one I'll use. A commit message is a brief of what you have done in each commit. So in this one I've added choosing option 5. Oh yes, if you add the file before you commit. So here, if you haven't added the file into the staging area, which is the area that Git uses to track changes to the file. So if it hasn't been added to the staging area, then no changes has been detected yet. So first you need to add the file. And here I'll use the dot to represent everything inside the current directory. So now it's added, and then you can check the status again. Then it should say a new file is in the staging area, but it's not committed yet. So now we'll proceed to commit it. Check the status again. So there's nothing to commit because all the changes has been committed. So now if we need to sync this with the remote repo, we'll use the command git push. And then the push is done, and we can check the repository on GitHub, and then we see the changes has been added. So the second way that we can create a repository is by using the git init command.
Hi, you should add a me file in the GitHub and then pull it remote repository.
Yes. So, for example, if you have multiple people working on the same repository, so the remote can contain some changes that are not on your local version. So you, for example, someone might add a new file here. So here we can see that the remote has a new file. And then before you continue working on this repo, you should update your local repo to the latest version of the remote repo by using the git pull command. It should pull the content of the remote into the branch that you are currently on the local machine. So to check what branch you're on, you can use the command git branch, and here it shows that you are on the master branch. So if you use the git pull command with no arguments, then it should pull the master branch of the remote into the master branch of your local repository. So here, and you can check the local remote again, and then the extra file is added. So that's the basics of git command.
Okay, thank you. Hi. My lab, one hands-on lab. Okay, so the first part is about assignment. You see that right after the class, the lab class, you need to include any work that you have done within the class to GitHub. Okay, you need to push all the work that you have done within the class time. Okay, and I let you have one more day to complete all the exercises in the lab. Maybe maybe you didn't finish all the exercise in the labs. Don't worry, you can finish it and commit and push. You can push to the GitHub. With the second deadline is the 10 p.m. Of the day after the class day. Okay. So today after this course, after this class, at 3 p.m. you need to have the first push. Okay, including all the work that you have done within today's lab class time. Okay, and the second push to the remote is the 10 p.m. tomorrow. You should complete all the exercise in this lab. Okay, you need to do by yourself, not I mean, copy or refer or discuss to any other student. You need to write by yourself, okay? And you should follow that, many detailed guideline and some exercise with sample code, or maybe some exercise that without any code you need to do by yourself. So there's some hint or some suggestion for you to do it. You need to complete all the exercise here and commit to the GitHub. Okay. This lab is only, the purpose of this lab is to let you to be familiar with Java. That's it. And it's not difficult, but it's like, I mean, how many? 6 and so we have 8 exercise need to submit tomorrow 10 p.m. That's it. But I believe that it's not difficult for you because it's very basic exercise. Okay. Do you have any questions? Okay, so I think it's time for practice, and during the practice time, if you have any question or comment, you can unmute and say directly, okay? So I will be here until 2:30, and I have a little busy from 2:30, but Hai is here, so half an hour I will answer you if you have any questions, okay? But from now to 2:30, I'm here also, so we are available to answer any questions from you, okay? Okay. So let's do it. Let's practice following the guideline.
Okay, so now since the class is a little bit quiet, so I'm gonna call someone to share their progress with the class. So first, does anyone volunteer? Or does anyone have a question? You can use this opportunity to share your screen and ask everyone here.
I have a question about the syntax of the Java. Can I explain my question in Vietnamese because it's hard to...
Okay, it's fine, yes.
Nghĩa là em thấy ở cái Java này ý, là mình sẽ bắt đầu là mình sẽ khởi tạo một cái class, và cái class đấy phải cùng cái tên với cái file Java của mình, đúng không ạ?
Đúng rồi.
Thì em muốn hỏi là mình có thể tạo được một cái class khác ở ngoài cái class đấy mà nó có tên khác với cái tên với cái file với cái tên file của Java không?
Em thử viết như thế xong compile chưa?
Em chưa nên em chỉ hỏi ạ. Nghĩa là em chưa bao giờ làm thử nhưng em chỉ hỏi là nó có được.
Em thử xong rồi thử share mọi người xem.
Vâng.
So I know that there is a question related to the file name and the class name, right? And who asked this question? Can you answer me if you can find the answer or not, or do you try to do it in your source code? I know that the student asked about the class name and the file name should be the same, and if not the same, what happens? So did you try that? Did you try to make the difference? It's not different, but before I already make a demo that the class name is different from the file name and there is an error, right? So what is the question exactly? You asked what happens if you have 2 classes in a file, right? Then can you?
Yeah.
You unmute and repeat the repeat the question and what is the status now? Have you tried what Hai suggests?
Can I explain my question? Can I read my question in Vietnamese?
I'm not going to comment for that because you are using English for the courses, right?
Okay. Yes. I can also
Yeah, sure.
show my question in English.
Okay.
In the Java, when you create a file Java, firstly you create a class that has a name match the name of the Java file. So I have a question that if I create another class outside of the class, outside of this class that has the same name with with the Java file, does this has a conflict or is it invalid?
Did you try? Because I remember that Hai suggest you to do that and see what happened when you do that. Did you try that?
I try that and I see that if I create another class outside the class that has the same name with the Java file, when I run this Java file, it will create some other file with the suffix dot class, and when I run this file, this will run each it will run the statement in this file, in this class file.
Sorry, can you share your screen and show? I think
Okay, yes, I will show my screen.
I will let you be the presenter. 1 second.
Yes. Okay.
You are Tiến, right? Duy Tiến, right?
Yes.
Okay, you can present now.
Okay.
Can you present? Sorry. Can you share your screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Let's see.
Firstly, like that.
Okay.
It's like I have the file called test.java. You see on screen, and I create 3 class. Maybe this class is maybe the test. If I call the class is test, and then I run my Java file in command line like Java test Java Java. Yeah, because it will run. It will print out the. It will print out the hello world in the code is the class test, because this test class has the same name. This test class has the same name with the Java with the name in the command line. But if I modify it in C
Yeah.
and I run Java test.java, sorry, test. Oh, maybe I should no, it's not what I see before.
Maybe you should compile. Compile.
I think I should delete this.
Yeah. Okay.
Could not
Yeah, auto. Exactly.
No, it's not what I want to show you.
Okay, really?
Rồi Java,
Ah,
Java.
I should
It
if I write JavaC, I after I ask your question, I search my problem online, and they show me that if I write JavaC and write the name of the file here, they when I compile it with this command, you can see in my folder in my this is my file code, and after I run this command, it will create three file with the suffix dot class.
Yeah.
You can see.
Yeah.
And now I can run Java on this file, on this on three file with this on three file. Like with this file I can run you see that in the class C we have a main function with a statement hello world, print the hello world. Right now I can run C with Java compiler, and it can print out hello world.
Yeah. So
I think if this class has a name like now, if this class has a name test, okay, then I run Java. Oh,
you should compile again.
yeah, I have to compile again. Could not find the main load.
Java C. Compile Java C. It's not
Yeah.
Java.
If it's plus is it's hard to understand. I know. Let's see. Just if I run
Java test.
and then I take the test Java with the test file, you can run. So I don't know.
Okay, so I will summarize for you. So what do you want to show me? It's not that. It's not like that, right?
So before I have
You should compile because if not compile.
Java C.
Okay, so it's already. So now you roll Java.
And so I think firstly when we run Java, it firstly create another file, but not with the. It's like your bytecode in the lesson about Java. I think so. Maybe something with the dot class. And then when we run the Java, and when we then we can run Java with the bytecode. I don't.
Okay, so I will explain something for you. Okay.
Yes.
So Java has a rule that if in your file has a public class, you need to specify the file name as exactly the same with the name of the public class file name. Okay, public class name. Understand? So, can you share your screen and do what I asked you to do? So, in a file, if you have a public class, the file name should be exactly the same as the class name, the class that has public name. So if you public class test, public class C, for example, you do that. Public class C, public, just public. Yeah, that's it. So try to Java C, go to the command line, and try Java C test Java test class, Java C test.java. Java C test. So you see, the class is public and should be declared in a file named c.java. You see, so if in a file has a public class, so the file name should be exactly the same with the public class name. Understand? Why? Because when you run that file, the JVM will look at entry point. Entry point, that is the public class. So the class which is public should be the same as the file name. So when you try to run the file, it will find out the class name as the same as the file name. So that's why if in a file has a public class, the file name should be exactly the same with the public class name. So in your file, you may have several classes, like what you do like here, but it cannot have more than one public class, only one or no public class. Understand? If no public class as before you do, so it's okay, and each class will be compiled to each dot class file. For example, you have 3 class ABC and 3 are not public. And then when it compiled, we make the A dot class, B dot class, and C dot class is okay. But if you make the C class as a public, the name of this file should be C also. So if just one statement, if you have a public class, the file name should be exactly the same with the public class name. That's it. And you may have multiple class in a file. Okay, but only maximum one public class. Only maximum one public class. So that the JVM can find, that is the entry point. JVM can find the public class and then find the main method to start the program. Got it?
You mean that the public class is entry point for a Java file? So I think it is the same that the public in the main class, because everything code file is read from the main class, so it has the same meaning with the public class test here.
It's not the same meaning, but it's like the JVM will find out the public class first. If not find out, it will raise an error. If it can find out the public class, it will find out the main method. So if first find the public class, if found, it will go to the main. We will call the main method. That's it. Okay. So if you want, the JVM can call the class or main method directly you should put it as a public so that JVM can call it. If not public, JVM cannot call it. Okay?
Okay, this is interesting.
Okay, thank you for your question. Any others? Sorry, I think I need to go now. So I will be here to help you if you have any problem, okay? And I hope that we can have offline class next week because I hate online class. It's terrible for me. Sometimes I think that I'm talking with with nobody. Okay, so see you next week. Remember to submit your result 2 times, okay? 3 p.m. today and 10. The deadline, next deadline is 10 p.m. tomorrow. And if you have any problem with the Git in GitHub, please immediately ask Hai to have a support, okay?
Teacher, I have a question.
Yeah.
So if I have any problem with the exercise, how can I talk to you or I?
So what is the problem you mean here?
Maybe I mean that maybe when I do exercise, I have some problem with the syntax.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So normally the class time, I mean the lab class time is the best way to exchange or make a discussion or make QA section, okay? Because it is like directly ask and answer, okay? So you should, I mean, just like work hard in the class time and try to do best to do as much as possible so that you can have any issue or problem you can ask directly and immediately, okay? So please use your class time. And if not, if you cannot finish all the exercise at the class time, you can do at home. And if you have any problem at home, you can contact to, normally exercise, you should contact to Hai, not me. So you can, I don't know if I accept to inbox the message or maybe post in the Facebook group. Hi, which do you prefer?
Just you, if anyone has any question, you can just send me a messenger text. It's fine.
Yeah.
I check the messages on there more frequently than Teams, so yeah.
Yeah, and but I'm not very recommend for you to have so many question or discussion outside the class time, because at the class time you will have direct interaction, so it's easier, much easier, and you will have immediately the answer, okay? Because when you send message to Hai, for example, outside the class time, maybe Hai is busy, so cannot immediately answer you, or maybe just text chat is not easy, not very effective, okay? So I just say, please use your class time effectively, okay? But still, you can still send message or question outside the class time through the Facebook Messenger, okay? Is it clear for you?
Yes, thank you.